There's this story, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it makes a lot of sense. An economic professor who never failed a student once failed an entire class. Apparently, the students of that class were insisting that socialism works. That in a perfect world, you wouldn't have people who are rich, but at the same time, you would have no person that is poor. So the professor suggested that they would average the grades. And in this experiment, no one would get an A, but at the same time, no one would fail either. So the first test comes around, and everyone gets a B. The students who studied hard, and the ones that should have gotten an A, were very upset that despite the fact that they turned in perfect papers, they just ended having a B. But the students that were failures, the ones that wanted to go clubbing and partying and have fun rather than studying, they were excited by this. I mean, they didn't write anything on the test, and yet they managed to get a B. So the next test comes around, and this time it seems that the students who would study hard, they decided that they want a free ride as well. So they didn't study that much. But because they were good students, they still knew what to write, so everyone was now getting a C. Now at this point, many people started being unhappy, and they ended up bickering and blaming each other because getting a grade wasn't a personal responsibility now, it was a collectivist one. So many students were getting bullied because they didn't study hard enough, because they were getting low grades. And people like to blame each other. When the third test came along, everyone got a D. And as you can imagine, the bickering and the animosity in the class only intensified. The students that used to get A's were now very upset towards the students that initially demanded the experiment. They were also very upset with the way that they were treated outside of class by their friends. So they had absolutely no interest in helping them out. And as the last test comes up, everyone gets an F. And from that point forward, no one manages to get a higher grade. So there's many reasons why socialism fails, but I think this one explains how it is against human nature. If you have to walk to your house and you have two choices, one of them is a straight road, and the other one is a road that takes you through a very difficult neighborhood. You have to climb up a hill. It's a very, very difficult road to travel. Maybe there's some stray dogs over there. And no one is going to take the difficult road. This isn't about, like, humans being selfish or being mean-spirited or whatever. No, it's just that humans prefer the path of least resistance. In fact, if you take the hard road, people are going to look at you weirdly because everyone expects that you're going to perform a task in the most optimum way possible. And in the situation of socialism, where things are being spread around people and you're not being rewarded for working harder, or at least the reward isn't directly obvious, then there is no reason for people to study. There is no reason for people to work hard because there is no incentive. It gives you the view of fatalism. Like, imagine how it's like to study hard for an exam and you get to choose to give away some of the pleasures in life. You choose not to play video games. You don't go out. Your girlfriend is calling you. You have no reason to answer because you're focusing on your studies. And when you go to the exam, instead of getting the A plus because you studied hard, you get the same grade as the other students that went out partying, that decided to neglect their studies. Like, how does that make you feel? How would that justify that when the next exam comes along, you study just as hard? Like why do they get to party and you don't? And the reality is that under the Soviet Union, this is how it happened at many factories. Workers weren't compensated for their effort. They weren't compensated for putting in extra hours. In fact, in order to avoid giving benefits like workers of the month, they would reward machinery. Like, I'm not kidding. They would put medals on machines because the machine would perform better than the other machines, right? And so this was to avoid, like, trying to say that this worker is better than others, because that goes against the principle of equality. But when you look at the United States, at capitalism and how they used to do things back then, you would have even a McDonald's or like a KFC or some other business, and they would have a picture of the employee of the month, and they would put it on a wall, and that employee was recognized by the manager as being better than all the others due to the productivity. And this would encourage the other workers to try and have their pictures on a wall. And obviously, you know, this is a trick. It's a form of psychological manipulation. I would say it's almost as meaningless as having a sword in an MMORPG which you can place next to your avatar to show that it's an achievement. But it does work. Like, it shows that when you incentivize people, even with something as trivial as putting that guy's picture on a wall, it compels the other people to be more competitive. Of course, I'm pretty sure that Marxists would call this exploitation, but they do like the benefits of a society that produces this type of exploitation. Like, they do like the benefits of the product that the US was producing, right? Meanwhile, when you look at the products of the Soviet Union, you had bread lines and starvation and all of the other things which were due to the fact that they weren't exploiting their people enough, so their people were starving to death, I guess. It's all called harsh reality, but it's true, right? And it all comes down from the ideology that we all have to be equal. And when you look at it, it's like, well, we're not going to have any more poor people. But we're not going to have rich people either. Now, getting the poor to become wealthy is very difficult. Like, convincing the student who enjoys clubbing and who enjoys playing video games to stop doing that and start studying is very difficult. But to get the student who does study to go out clubbing and play video games, that is achievable. Like, that is very easy and simple to do. So what you end up is, you don't end up with more people in the middle, you end up with more people at the bottom. And this is just like one of the many things that we notice are going wrong in socialism. But do let me know what you guys think, and if you like the channel, please subscribe. Do consider becoming a member, giving us super thanks, or if you really want a case of buyer's remorse, I do have a link that will take you to my subscribe star, which I don't shill enough. And if I don't shill it, then who will? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you in the comment section. Take care.